What do you do when your partner just cannot stop finding ways to annoy you? We'll get to that in a bit, but first, my boyfriend of 3+ years doesn't want to leave his parents' house to marry me. I, 26-year-old female, feel really stuck. He, 26-year-old male, lived with his parents his entire life. They are plenty rich and he doesn't have any responsibilities around the house. He works in his father's company. We've been friends since 2020 and started going out around 2021. Since then, it started to get serious. I've met with his family multiple times, even went to vacation with his mother and sister. They don't want me because I'm poor and ugly. I live with my mom and we're around middle class. The flat is ours so we don't have to pay rent and we both work. We have a very stable life, but his dad wants him to marry someone rich. I was really hurt when I heard his comments about me, but my boyfriend said that it's gonna work out in the future, don't worry. But it's been 3.5 years already. Back then, we planned to get married around 27, but when I told him that now, he says it's too early, and if it was up to him, we would get married at 30. I told him we planned to get married at 27 and we're already 26. He said, I said that because you wanted to. I don't want to waste my time, but I also don't want to throw away our relationship. He is too comfy in his parents' house, so he doesn't want to have new responsibilities, so he's trying to make it take as long as possible. I don't find him attractive anymore, not physically. I thought I found someone I can finally live the rest of my life with, but my thought about him has changed now. I'm really sad and don't know what to do. Can someone help me with this? I mean, to me, it just sounds like somebody that's too complacent in their life and in your relationship. And if you're feeling at the point that you're already over him, why continue to delay the inevitable just like he's delaying anything relationship facing? Also, hi, I'm Steven, and if you guys enjoy tricky relationship topics, why not hit those like and subscribe buttons down below? That said, our next story is, my boyfriend and I are having a hard time blending families. Me, 33-year-old female, and my boyfriend, 35-year-old male, both have sons near the same age. My boys are 6 and 8, his son is 8. We've been dating for a couple of months and are at a point where we're starting to be around each other's kids and are getting the kids all together to hang out. He and his son joke in a way that I find verbally aggressive. They call each other stupid and ugly and basically verbally attack each other in what I'd consider to be a passive-aggressive way. I've brought this up to my boyfriend and he insists they're just playing, and it's all jokes. He's also made it very clear that he isn't going to change anything about it either. We've gotten into a few disagreements about it because I don't care to see him interact that way with my sons. My parenting style is very different. It's softer and uplifting. We never say mean things to each other, even as a joke. I understand that men and women parent differently. I know that dads typically tend to be more rough around the edges, while moms are usually more nurturing in their approaches. Should I be seeing this as much of a red flag as I do? Am I overreacting? I just think in general OP's moving way too fast with this. I don't think there's any reason to involve the kids right now. You're only a couple of months into dating this guy. Who's blending families a couple of months into a relationship? Our next story is, my boyfriend, 28-year-old male, is upset about having to use unscented soap on his downstairs area for me, 29-year-old female. I'm someone who is susceptible to getting yeast infections and has to use unscented soap and detergent. I have especially in the past been susceptible to them following sex with male partners. My current boyfriend uses a very strong and heavily scented body wash. I asked him if he could maybe just wash his area with my unscented bar soap as to help avoid upsetting my pH balance, or contributing to possibly giving me a yeast infection, and he said yes, he would. We talked about it again today, and I just found out he has only sometimes been doing it because it's inconvenient to him. He also stated that he doesn't actually believe that's a real thing, that it can upset a woman's pH or cause infection, because he's never heard about it anywhere before, and that's also why he doesn't care about it as much. What should I do in this case? I basically told him I don't really care to hook up with him unless he takes my health seriously. For added information, I'm the first girl he's ever been in a relationship with, or has been physical with as of a couple of months ago. He grew up not really socializing with women outside of family. So whether or not he has specifically heard about it before himself, he should learn that when you're in a relationship, there's this thing called communication, and also you should have a willingness to believe your partners when they share health concerns with you. I'm not trying to tear down the guy, but he doesn't have experience, so why is he going around acting like he knows everything? They've never been in a relationship with a woman before OP, but somehow they know everything about how their body can possibly function. It's also complete BS for him to say, oh, it's inconvenient. You're literally in the shower. Just grab the bar of soap. Plus, it's soap. If you're that lazy, it cleans itself. You don't even have to prepare anything special. Just grab the bar of soap, lather up your hands, and get to work. You don't even need to prepare a cloth or a loofah or anything. This next story is, I, 30-year-old male, joked with a cashier, 20s female, and my wife, 28-year-old female of 1 year, got jealous. 2 nights ago, my wife and I went to a winery a few blocks from home. I brought a returnable soda bottle and put it next to the cashier and said, "This is the one I want. None of that switcheroo business," and the cashier laughed. The whole joke was that recently I brought a large returnable bottle but wanted to buy a smaller size. The cashier accidentally charged me for the larger one, and the next time I saw her, 2 nights ago with my wife, I made a joke about it. Yesterday she was all sullen and irritated in the morning about it. When I was about to leave for work, she asked if I wanted to buy soda. I said I didn't, a bit confused, and she said something like, "Since you like that cashier so much, I mean." I had no idea what she meant, and when she explained herself, I was like, "Are you for real? Are you seriously jealous right now?" She said I was flirting with the cashier. I asked, "Are you seriously accusing me of flirting with this girl in front of you?" I asked if she thought that I was not only flirting with other women, but I was shameless enough to do it in front of her. She stayed quiet after that. She literally didn't say anything else, and I left for work pretty angry at her. This is the first ever that she accuses me or even remotely insinuates that I'm being disloyal to her over a freaking dumb joke about a soda bottle. I tried talking to her about it last night and today, and she's completely given me the silent treatment of this topic. When I bring it up, she shuts down immediately. I'm seriously offended that she accused me of essentially seeking other women, and when I defend myself and want to talk it out, she shuts down, doesn't explain herself, doesn't apologize, nothing. What do I do here? How do I get her to open up, explain herself, and ideally apologize? Literally, she had never accused me of something in such a baseless way and then shut down. Playful? Sure. Flirting? No. Honestly, them shutting down may be more about her than it is OP. Maybe they're aware that it probably is irrational, but they're still upset about it. They just don't want to fight about it. It would be good if OP could try to have a discussion with her about what makes her feel the way it does, so you guys can try to understand and break it down, and hopefully collaborate and work on it rather than let it continue to stay silent and fester, and hopefully it just goes away on its own. Our next story is, am I lazy or is my fiance being a baby? I, 29-year-old female, have recently began living without my fiance, 33-year-old male. I think we have a good relationship. We're both respectful and try to be open-minded to what the other likes, but somehow, living with him is starting to get to me. He asks me to do everything. He'll say things like, "Oh, you don't have to cook, we'll just buy something." But the next day, he will complain that he doesn't have lunch or he's hungry and there's nothing to eat. He literally only eats full meals, no snacks or nothing frozen. It's weird. I also do all the cleaning apart from mopping the floor, and occasionally he'll do the laundry and usually takes the kitchen trash out, only when asked though. We don't have a huge place, just a 1-bedroom apartment, so I really only clean the kitchen and the bathroom and tidy up the living room and bedroom here and there as needed. We both work full-time, but he's also going to school full-time. When I think about it, our workload seems even, but when I'm doing it, I feel like I'm always working. He also asks me to do little things like serve his food and drinks, get this, turn on that, bring him this, etc. Just all sorts of little things he can do on his own, but just won't. If I'm sitting around relaxing on a Saturday, but he has something in his mind, my relaxation goes out the window, and now I'm doing whatever he's asked me to do. If I've finished cleaning all the dishes and cleaned the kitchen for the night, but he's suddenly hungry or snacks again, then I have to prepare something and clean up all over again. It's just things like that, and it's starting to annoy me. I don't know if I'm being a spoiled, lazy brat who's getting a reality check. I've only lived with my parents who did the cooking and cleaning for the most part, or if I'm right to feel this way. I mean, as long as your chores are split pretty evenly, I think it's unjustified in that situation. But in situations where they can very much get up and turn this on or go get themselves X or Y, OP's definitely not in the wrong for being upset that you're kind of being treated like a maid in that regard. It's one thing if OP's getting up and going to the kitchen to say, "Hey, can you grab me something?" But for him to just expect you to get up and go get whatever or stop and do whatever for them, I think anybody's going to get sick and tired of that because you don't even want to be around the person because there's just a high chance they're going to ask you to do something if you're around them. It's like, forget it, I don't even want to be seen around you if you're just going to ask me to do something for you. Our next story is my 21-year-old female best friend, 22-year-old female, is ending our relationship because I'm still friends with the guy, 22-year-old male, she hooked up with. My childhood best friend of 11 years is ending our friendship and I'm just at a loss of what to do. I have a male best friend of essentially 3 years now, we'll call him Jack. I introduced Jack and my friend Emma earlier this year and we became a little trio where we hang out, talk, do things together, etc. To establish the dynamics, Jack considers me his best friend and vice versa. Emma and I are best friends. Side note, I have no romantic feelings for Jack and vice versa. Recently, Emma began catching feelings for Jack and expressed discomfort over me and Jack hanging out by ourselves. Her and Jack start flirting over text pretty heavily and end up hooking up and things kind of take a turn for the worse. Jack feels that them hooking up can potentially ruin things a lot between all three of us and decides not to take the relationship further. He tells her he doesn't want to change the friendship. She expresses understanding, but she feels really hurt and rejected about it later on. She vents to me. I try to support her as best as I can by giving her advice, etc. He's also casually dating a girl at this time. She was aware of this prior to the hookup, and she feels really hurt about it as well. She starts to feel isolated from me. She feels upset that me and Jack are still hanging out alone, and she thinks I should be telling her when we do. She tells me she's going to distance herself from me because I don't tell her what Jack got her for Christmas, etc. It eventually blows over to where she's feeling extremely hurt. I advise her to stop talking to Jack since it's making her feel worse, and she tells Jack I told her that. Jack ends up distancing himself from her. She feels worse. I try to support her and give her advice, but she finally said that she feels betrayed and hurt that I'm still friends or laughing with the guy that hurt her. She feels disposable and that he discarded her after hooking up. I feel like, is there anything I could have done more to prevent this from happening? Was this bound to happen? Was it impossible for me to salvage my friendships with both of them? Am I a terrible friend? I don't think OP's a terrible friend, but they just have the unfortunate and unenviable position of being the third wheel in an awkward friendship where they hooked up with each other and things just aren't really going well. It's sounding like a genie that can no longer be put back into that bottle. Our next story is my boyfriend wants kids, I do not. My boyfriend and I are in our early 20s and have been together for just over 2 years. We've talked and made plans about getting married. There's just one issue, he wants kids. I've never really wanted kids. I tried convincing myself for a while that it was something I could do, and I imagined us having a family together, and for a while it seemed like a possibility. But recently, the thought of it makes me feel uneasy. I struggle with a lot of mental health issues, and I know that I mentally won't be able to cope with having a baby, nor would I be able to properly care for one as a mother. We've spoken about it, and he said that he understands my choice and respects my decision. He said that he doesn't want kids unless they're with me, and if I never want them, then that's okay. I appreciate him being so understanding of me, but I worry that he's just saying that now and thinks that maybe I'll change my mind. I don't want him to resent me later on or regret staying with me and not having kids. Should we stay together despite this difference, or would it be best for us to break up and go our separate ways? Well, I mean, it comes down to whether or not they're being truthful. If they're truly fine with not having kids and spending that time with you, great. If they're lying, well, that sucks, and the real problem is they lied to your face. How would you know? As long as they're doing everything to tell you, convince you, and make sure that you know that they're okay not having kids, ever, then what's the issue from there? Bottom line though is if there is even an inkling that they're still always going to want kids, it is such a fundamental difference that you should probably take a long, hard look at it. Our next story is my boyfriend, 21-year-old male, is pressuring me, 21-year-old female, to lose weight. My boyfriend insinuates I should change my body. I don't know if this is an overreaction on my behalf. For reference, I'm a 21-year-old woman. I'm 166 centimeters tall and around 60 to 62 kilograms. I'm not stick thin, but I'm not fat or overly muscular either. One day when with my boyfriend, he told me he likes women with abs. The comment came out of nowhere as we weren't talking about this topic, but I just brushed it off. A while later, he asks several times what my ideal body would be. Again, we weren't really talking about this, so I vaguely answered, more toned. He looks me up and down and feels my body and tells me, you should lose body fat then. I was quite hurt by this as I didn't ask him for any advice or start this topic of conversation. He gives me an estimate of what he thinks my fat percentage is. At this point, I ask him if he thinks I'm fat, and he says he could help me and write me a workout plan. I expressed my hurt and we argued slightly. He then apologized and said he was only trying to help. A few hours pass and I forget all about it. However, again, he brings up the topic and asks what my ideal body type would be. I said toned again. He then goes on to Instagram and shows me some photos of fitness models, asking if I want to look like this girl or this girl. Both girls were very similar, good muscles and abs. I started to get even more upset as I didn't see why he kept persisting with this topic. We argued and he got so mad he punched a wardrobe. He insisted he was trying to help me. I never asked for this. I'm just confused as I'm healthy and work out regularly. I know I'm attractive, so why has he done this? I mean, his initial behavior alone is concerning, and like if I were in OP's position, I would start immediately kind of questioning things. But for him to go and get so worked up that he goes and punches a wardrobe, that is highly concerning. And it almost shocks me how casually OP mentioned that and then didn't mention how they felt about it, really show any kind of worry in any other part of the story about it. I mean, that reaction is not normal, especially in something that's not even that hostile. This next story is, I, 39-year-old male, got into first fight with girl, 42-year-old female, because I didn't tell her when I left my house. So I'm, 39-year-old male, dating an older woman, 42-year-old female, and we've been on about 6 dates. She's a flight attendant, so she's gone constantly, so we need to maximize time. We recently got into our first fight because of plans we were trying to make during one of her few days off. It happened over text. She's agreed that I can share our exchange because we are in total disagreement of if plans were solidified or not. To me, when I said, that sounds perfect, I'll drive up at that time, meant we officially had a time and date. She's angry because I showed up to the place, but had not told her when I was leaving my house. So she had to scramble to meet me and came 30 minutes late. My argument is, I didn't have to let her know because we clearly had made plans with time, date, and place. When I said I was thinking about things, that was only about if I was driving or taking an Uber. She says she 100% cannot see things my way. So I looked at the text exchange. The issue is OP said they have a meeting that ends at 4 and then they'll make their way up. The partner replied, I think their happy hour starts at 5. Just take your time, we can adjust if need be. OP replies, okay dope, that should work perfectly, and never responded again after that. So I think the issue here is I think OP assumed their reply, okay dope, that should work perfectly, meant more confirmation than it really did. Because when she said, I think their happy hour starts at 5, we can adjust if need be, OP didn't respond with, oh yeah, I'll be there at 5. OP said, okay, that should work perfectly, so she's probably hanging around assuming they're gonna hear back once OP's finally done with their meeting they said was going on. There was never any, okay, I'll be there at 5. Our next story is, 32-year-old male, boyfriend broke up with me, 30-year-old female, during an argument, and took it back within half an hour. I haven't felt okay since. Asked me to move into the guest room, and during the process, I was messaging work because I was going to be late, or not in at all since I was actively being broken up with over a heated argument. He told me of course I would call out, and got even more mad at me, so I ordered a ride and got my stuff together, and moved a few things of mine in the living room to the guest room. He apologized and hugged me while I waited for my ride to work and said he still wanted to work on things, but I felt just empty ever since. He says he's tired of being in charge of my complaints about the relationship, and I'm just trying to find ways to not feel like I'm pretending while sitting around on eggshells all week. It's been a crappy week. I don't know what to do. I'm so upset because I love him so much, but it seems like no matter how many ways I express to him what my needs and desires are, they will always just be a chore or an inconvenience to him. I don't really feel like the details matter so much, but I'm insecure in the relationship, and he's financially insecure, and we just can't seem to see eye to eye on anything. I do things to engage with him and his hobbies like video games daily, but he can't be bothered to even go on dates or help me come up with something fun to do together that makes me feel fulfilled. And now with the tension, if I suggest anything or ask for something to try, he's just taking it as more complaints or ridicule. I'm exhausted and I kind of feel like I should have moved into the guest room. I know if I do now, he'll just tell me I'm being dramatic or trying to get a reaction out of him, so I haven't. I don't want us to break up, but I'm also kind of done trying anymore. I'm too tired and sad about it all, and every argument now feels like a potential breakup. So I'm afraid to even talk to him. Please help. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, it kind of sounds to me like things are pretty over. It just doesn't sound like either side really wants to fight for this relationship. I think it's becoming more of a thing where it's just convenient and easy to stay. You know, it hurts and it's difficult to break up, but nobody's fighting for it. Is there any spark to be had still there? Our next story is male 29, female 27. Boyfriend and best friend slept together and says nothing happened. Should I believe them? Hey, need opinions on this. A few months ago, I traveled with my best friend, female 27, to a new country. While there, I met a guy, male 29, and we dated and became pretty serious over the 6 months I was there, until I unexpectedly had to return home for a bit. I noticed one night when we were texting, his Snap Naps was on, and at 6 a.m., he went to the area where my best friend now lived. I thought maybe it's just a coincidence and one of his friends might just live in that area too. I went back to the country recently to visit, went to my best friend's house, and it was in fact that same address he went to that night. They never told me or mentioned it to me. They barely knew each other at that stage. He told me it was an after party at hers. He slept in her bed but says nothing happened. She denies it as well. However, their stories don't completely match. I'm meant to be going back in a few months. What should I do in this situation? I'm not willing to buy it. It just does not add up to me. It all just sounds way too suspicious. I think, honestly, let them continue to share the same bed. Move on. Our next story is my 29-year-old female, husband, 30-year-old male, annoys me every day in the most minimal way. How do I deal with this? My husband has this habit that I find very annoying, but that I can't necessarily fault him for without feeling mean. I swear, he's trying to annoy me. He will come to my desk when I'm busy and then just stand there and stare at me without saying anything. He'll wait for me to get exasperated enough to ask, "What?" And then he'll laugh because, in my opinion, he successfully annoyed me, then he leaves. Alternative behavior is he'll come to my desk while I'm busy and literally twerk. I will be obviously intensely reading, but he will not stop twerking on the wall or whatever corner of my vision until I turn my head and acknowledge it. He especially waits for me to laugh before he stops, but I am so tired of laughing at this low-effort joke or prank. This is every day, multiple times a day. Lately, I've been so exhausted that I'm using more obviously unimpressed faces in response to this, and trying to never give him laughs, but he's persistent. How does his behavior read to others? Am I right to be annoyed? How can I handle this without being mean? I mean, it definitely sounds like he just wants a lot of attention. I just think in a situation like this, it's incredibly important to communicate how it's frustrating and annoying for you, because if you don't, that is very quickly going to turn into resentment. And the last thing you want if you want this relationship to work out is to resent your partner. You don't want to come around the corner and see them and go, ugh. You don't want to find yourself falling into a scenario where you hate running into the person you're supposed to love the most. This next story is, my girlfriend rejected sex so much that now I don't want to do it anymore. Hi all, I, 25-year-old male, have been with my girlfriend, 25-year-old female, for about 2 years. At the beginning, sex was okay, never great, but good enough that I didn't care much. Then about a year ago, she started rejecting me all the time. She didn't only reject me when I initiated, but also didn't want kisses and would get upset with any kind of play I tried to do. The very few times we did do it, she did not put any effort at all, and it was very bad, to the point I didn't enjoy it. At some points, she even told me that it looked like all I wanted is that, when that couldn't be further from the truth. I really love her. I view my future with her and all that. Nowadays, she tries to initiate it, to kiss me and all that, but I've been rejected so many times that I don't even feel like kissing her anymore. Has anyone gone through something similar? What are your thoughts? I mean, I get where OP's coming from. They got rejected so many times that I think it's kind of in their own head. You feel like your partner doesn't actually desire you. I think the issue is OP's harboring these feelings and it's causing them to act unnecessarily. Because they have these feelings that haven't been validated or really addressed, they're allowing that to prevent them from being intimate in their relationship. From this story, it sounds to me like there's a personal tally system inside. For all the things and all the times OP's been denied and rejected, giving in now that she is initiating and retaliating, it would be like trying to forget everything that ever happened to OP. And I think it's just a big sign that there are things that OP needs to work through that have been kind of swallowed up. I mean, not only does OP have these feelings, but OP also doesn't have any clarity on why she was being so rejecting for all that time. I especially understand in that circumstance why those feelings are so rooted. Our next story is, I, 25-year-old male, found out that my best friend of 10 years, 25-year-old male, was the one telling our group of friends to not invite or let me know that they're meeting up. How do I talk to him and move past this? Some background, for my first year of university, I moved away from my close friends to study in a different city. We continued texting each other after I moved, but this of course put some distance between me and my friends while they were getting closer with each other since they were expecting the first year of uni together. They had the mentality that every first-year university student has to go out and have lots of fun. I began experiencing many personal issues and decided to move back and study in the city that my friends were all in after 6 months of being away from everyone. After returning, I realized that I was being excluded from many outings or meetups my friends did. At this point, I was still going through a difficult period because of the issues I was referring to above, and this was adding to my sadness, making me miserable. I confided in my best friend, let's call him X, explained how the situation made me feel, that it was not nice leaving me out of outings because we're all friends. I didn't understand why they weren't inviting me. I thought that maybe some of the newer people in the group didn't want me there and that's why I didn't mind not going to some of the outings. I was just heartbroken being left out all the time, especially because they knew I was going through a difficult time and was hoping they'd be there for me in the same way that I've been there for them. I told my ex to imagine himself in my shoes, and he said that I'm right, and he implied that he wasn't the one having problems with me, and when I asked if it's someone else, he didn't deny it. He even said that he would speak up for me and try to make it so I wouldn't get left out. This would haunt me a lot and he knew it. X was always telling me I'm right and that he didn't understand why they were acting like that. Fast forward a few years, 5 to 6, to now, X is currently my best friend and I love him very much. I went through these years believing that the other members of that group didn't want me and had many fights back then over this issue. Recently, I met up with a different friend and he revealed that this whole time, it was actually my best friend X telling the friend group not to include me or let me know that they're all meeting or going out because I kill the vibe, going so far to even hide Instagram stories from me so that I wouldn't know they're all hanging out. This deeply hurt me and I feel betrayed by X. Even more so because I'm much closer with him now than I was in the past. He has changed now for the better and I know it. I trust the current version of him and I know he loves me, but I'm not sure I'll ever be able to see him in the same way. I feel like now I'm more wary and careful around X and I feel betrayed. The funny thing is, I've had conversations with X about the past, and he always felt as if he was a bad person and that he changed his ways in his second year of university, but I never knew why because he seemed fine to me until now. I was mostly over this whole ordeal, but this new information has reopened an old wound and made it worse. I'd like to talk to my best friend about it, but the friend that revealed this information to me doesn't want anyone knowing that he told me. What do I do? X doesn't know that I know. Please don't suggest anything like cutting everyone off because these are my friends of many years and they are a huge part of my life. I really believe that he has changed. Thank you. I mean, in a circumstance like this, if OP doesn't want to cut anybody off, bottom line is you either address it and you put it all out there and you try to get past it and own it. Hopefully he owns it. Or, and this is the more difficult option I think, you kind of accept it and move on and hope that nothing like that ever happens again and that you can personally just move past it. If you don't want to talk to him directly because your other friend would get exposed and that would cause too much issues, but you don't want to cut anybody off, there's really no other option but to just try to accept it and move past it yourself. But with that being said, that's all the time we have for today. Now, if you want to hear another tricky relationship topic, check out that video on the left. Or if you missed my latest video, check out that video on the right. That said, I'll see you all next time with some more stories.